Straddling the northern shores of Lake Athabasca, and sitting only 30 miles from the Northwest Territory, lies Uranium City. Only 40 years ago, Uranium City was a bustling town with thousands of inhabitants. Today, it's a ghost town. How did what was once a prosperous town in the middle of the Arctic end up as a ghost town where the few remaining residents are fighting to keep it alive? In 1981, the city reached its zenith, where according to Statistics Canada, the population reached a bit over 2,500 inhabitants. Some journalists and amateur historians have provided their own estimates, which range between 5 and 10,000 for the height of Uranium City. The discrepancy between these estimates and Statistics Canada could be explained through a number of factors. First, the number of individuals still living in tents, which was a common practice for mining towns at this time, or transient, non-official / non-permanent residents living in the area. Regardless of the exact number of residents, what we do know is that it was the largest city on Lake Athabasca for nearly 3 decades, in a place where thousands called it home. The city was founded in 1952 after the provincial government of Saskatchewan decided to establish a permanent residence in the area to service a network of uranium mines. This mine network was known as the Beaver Lodge Uranium Area. Some of the major mines it included were Gunner Mine, Lorado Mine, Fay's Varnum Mine, and El Dorado Mine. In total, Uranium City had 52 mines in its general area. These mines service both the U.S. military and Canada's CANDU nuclear reactor. Prior to the foundation of Uranium City as a permanent settlement, most of the miners working in the area lived in tent cities surrounding the mines themselves, with the largest tent city being El Dorado. Many of these tent cities suffered from the same problem as mining towns in northern Ontario, which were set up in a similar fashion. These problems were namely the lack of basic services, like healthcare and reliable schooling for its populations. To further bolster and encourage a movement away from tent cities to the permanent settlement of Uranium City, the provincial government passed the Municipal Corporation of Uranium City and District Act of 1956, also known as the Uranium City Act. This act created a unique district of Uranium City, allowing the municipality to have greater autonomous control over education, healthcare, and welfare. In 1956, Uranium City was sitting at a population of about 1,800 inhabitants, and the city had actually reached a point of relevance to where it received a royal visit from Prince Philip in 1959. In 1960, the El Dorado mine made a conceited effort to redirect all current and future workers from the mining tents to Uranium City. This led to relatively consistent growth for the town until the early 1980s. Demographically speaking, the population was made up of a combination of white Canadians, First Nation individuals, mostly of Dene and Cree tribes, and people of Métis descent. At its height, Uranium City had a hospital, high school, kindergarten, primary school, post office, hotel, airport, and seaplane port. It also featured numerous stores, restaurants, and motels. By 1981, despite being a prosperous community with thousands of residents and all the services of a normal city, the city was going to go through an abrupt change that would prove to be the killing blow for the community. Suffering from increasing financial troubles, El Dorado Resources, the owner of the largest network of mines in the area, made the shocking announcement that they would be closing their mines. This led to the complete collapse of Uranium City's economy. The company itself would close down only 7 years later. Almost the entire population was unemployed almost immediately, with most non-Indigenous Canadians leaving for opportunities in Saskatoon, Alberta, and Northern Ontario. Most First Nations individuals returned to their reservations, with the 3 most common being Fond du Lac, Stony Rapids, and Wollaston Lake reservations. The same year, the high school closed, virtually all shops, restaurants, and motels closed as well. The flight frequency at the local airport was greatly reduced, making the area even more isolated than it was before. Of the 2,500 or so recorded official residents in 1981, only around 100 opted to stay by 1982. The remainers were a combination of Métis, Cree, and Dene individuals, with a few white Canadians sprinkled amongst them. The closure of the mine was so abrupt that most people had to leave their belongings behind as the winter season was coming and moving personal effects was becoming increasingly impossible. Ultimately, and tragically, many of the miners and individuals who grew up in the community died early and difficult deaths due to exposure to toxic metals from the mining operations. One might ask, with toxic waste in the land and the town being reduced to a ghost town, why would some people decide to stay? Although many of these people hailed from First Nations communities in the area like Fond du Lac, many had been born and raised in Uranium City and did not speak the language of their native heritage, and thus were culturally removed from many of the local reservations. In 1983, the Uranium City Act was repealed, and the area was turned into an unincorporated settlement due to a lack of population. By 2003, the local hospital, which had dramatically dropped in coverage and quality over the past 2 decades, was finally closed. Westwind Aviation, which ran multiple air routes to Uranium City from various areas in northern Canada, ceased operations in 2005, and by extension, closed their air routes servicing the city. The population level of around 100 maintained until the early 2010s, when the population began dropping dramatically. It first dropped from 105 to 70 by 2016, and by 2019 there were reports that the population had dropped as low as 50 inhabitants. Although it's hard to know for sure, today it seems like things might be improving in Uranium City. The population in 2021 was recorded to be around 91, which is a notable improvement from the lowest point of around 50. This shows a good trend in the right direction. The nearest significant settlement is Fond du Lac Reservation, which is about 48 miles away by plane, the only reliable year-round method of transportation. Fond du Lac Reservation only has about 1,100 individuals and is a Dene-speaking community. Today, Uranium City still has a functioning airport, which acts as one of its last employers in the area. Interestingly, the airport is adjacent to the former location of the El Dorado mining tent city. There is no normal road access between the rest of Canada from Uranium City, and it's only serviced by one highway, Saskatchewan Highway 962, which itself is not connected to other Canadian highways and services only the local mining area. Now, most of the town it connects are either abandoned entirely or sparsely populated. During the winter, an ice road forms, allowing for a connection to the Fond du Lac Reservation. The highway in total is only about 25 miles long. In 2019, the Canadian government found Gunnar Mine to have good safety standards, with minor infractions seemingly showing an improvement for the community. The mines surrounding El Dorado are currently managed by Camco Corporation, a Canadian public uranium company, who heads the remediation projects, attempting to clean up the pollution in the local area. Today, residents and visitors are advised to not eat the fish caught at creeks that are adjacent to mining operations due to exposure. The community still has a primary school, a post office, and a small lodge, which according to Google reviews includes an extremely talented French cuisine chef whose Arctic rabbit with dryad mushroom is apparently to die for. One can only guess what lies ahead for the residents of Uranium City, but one would hope that the urban exploration trend will show Uranium City some love. Thanks for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. Leave a comment down below for what content you'd want to see next.